Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the FlexWork Podcast. It's your boy Ankur Garg. Today I have a very special person who's got a deep resume of different brands and projects that he's worked on, names that we're definitely going to recognize. Fellas, ladies, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Philip VanDusen. How's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm so excited to have you in here because when I opened the studio, I started stalking everyone on LinkedIn, and a lot of people will say that LinkedIn's not the best place for networking and what you do because you just get spammed all the time, right? But I just came up with this idea that I'm going to have this pitch. Come on down to be on my podcast. I'll give you a cup of coffee. And let's see who falls for this trap, right? And I must have messaged 1,200 people, and 100 people came back to us. I started going through the 100 people that came in, and when your resume came up, I was like, I have to meet Philip. Your background is so interesting with the companies that you've worked with. But I want to know, like, particularly what did you do with those companies, right? And like what your superpowers are. And everyone else has to understand like why I'm so impressed that I'm sitting in front of you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. So I was trained as a painter, actually. I have my master's degree. I have my master's degree in painting. And I actually got my master's in order to teach. But at that time, finding teaching work as a painter at the college level was very difficult. And so I had eventually landed a position at the Lacoste School of Art in the south of France, and I taught there for a semester, and then came back to my apartment in Philadelphia, about $2,000 in debt, and without a job or prospects. And so as we do as creatives, I picked everything up and moved to New York City, and I decided to start a T-shirt company. So I took all the monotypes, the type of printmaking I was doing in France, and I started putting them on T-shirts. And I walked the island of Manhattan selling my T-shirts out of a sample case because this was pre-internet, so that totally dates me. And then, fast forward, I failed at that, and so I went to work for one of my competitors and found very quickly that being a creative director and a manager of creative people is a lot like teaching, except you're not out of work every 9 months and they pay you a lot more money. And so I moved my way through a couple of different apparel companies, eventually landing at Old Navy as a senior designer right when they were starting out. And I stayed with Old Navy for about 11 years and worked my way up to be vice president of graphic design for product, textile design, color, trend, packaging, and had about 65 people on my team. And then I moved over to the agency side. So then I went over to a big CPG firm, so you can identify with CPG.
Yeah, 100%.
I know that. And so we were doing brand strategy and brand identity and brand development for companies like Safeway and Chevron and Diamond Foods and Disney. The list goes on. Eventually went to work for Landor Associates as an executive creative director, working with P&G and a whole host of other big, CPG companies. And then got headhunted away to PepsiCo. So I went in as a vice president of global snacks. I've always loved that title, vice president of global snacks, in design, overseeing Lay's potato chips, biggest food brand in the world, Doritos, Fritos, Cheetos, Tostitos, all those really good for you brands that we all know and love. And then I hit a burnout. I was there for a period of time, and then it was an incredibly high pressure gig, global
I can
gig.
only imagine.
And we were just building design as a competency inside PepsiCo for the first time. And then my father was passing away, and I was working 80-hour weeks, and I just hit a wall, and I decided to walk away. Walked away from the biggest job in my career. And I'm so glad I did, but it was like one of those moments where you just have a kind of come to Jesus moment where you kind of re-look at your entire life and say, what's most important, spending the next 6 months with my dad while he's still alive, or, pushing potato chips around the world. And so I made that choice, no game plan, no, idea of what was next. And then I started my own consultancy, started my own thing. Had no idea how to get clients because the clients had always come to me, right? I mean, I didn't have to do business development. My business development people did business development. And so this thing kind of came to my attention called content marketing, which was,
I've heard of it.
Yeah, right. You put a little content out in the world, share what you know, and clients beat a path to your door. Sounded good to me, right? So I decided to start a newsletter. Did that for about 6 months, and then when I got those feet under me, I started a YouTube channel and decided I would just share absolutely everything I knew, no holds barred, about branding and design, and what I was learning and what I was going through, with the hope that someone would see it and clients would come my way. And the amazing thing was that within about 9 months, about 80% of my clients were coming to me directly from YouTube, which was really phenomenal. I was like, yay, goldmine. And so I started doing branding and consultant work. And then eventually, a couple of years later, started a podcast. And then we can get into what came after that. But that's kind of the short and long of it.
So the names that you just dropped are so incredible. I mean, it's easy to understand why I'm so enamored at your career, right? You pretty much just admitted that you were one of the guys behind the branding that brought Old Navy to mainstream America at a time when a lot of brands were competing for that space of the budget-friendly apparel choices, right, that were out there. I mean, I could almost guarantee that I bought every color flip-flop that Old Navy offered for that $4 price or whatever it was back in high school. And it's around the time that I think you were at Old Navy.
Yep, sure was.
And then when you look at the Pepsi and everything that they did with the chips, you were in charge of global snacks, which is incredible because that means, I mean, for those who haven't traveled outside America, the chips you get in America are not the same chips you get everywhere else in the world, right? Not only are there factories in different parts of the world to make the product, but the packaging is different. The psychology behind how you sell it is different. The pricing is different. And it is incredible to know that, you know, I'm sitting in front of the man that was part of such a big aspect of how so many immigrants kind of know some of these brands. And it's so powerful when I hear that. I was just super excited about having this conversation.
So I have a fun fact for you, and this is a quiz. So I'm going to quiz you about potato chips, global potato chips.
Okay.
So what is the most popular flavor of potato chips in the world?
Barbecue.
Nope.
Not.
Give you another one. Think international.
I mean, cheddar.
Prawn.
Really?
Yeah. And I didn't even know prawn potato chips existed.
See,
it's Asia Pac,
but
right?
there's no way India is buying prawn chips.
But all of China is.
I'm sure, right? So I guess that's just one of those things where as an
Japan.
Indian, I didn't see prawn chips ever.
Yeah.
Right? We would see masala chips, right? The random spice chips that are out there. But that's wild. Did not know that. Do you have more of those fun quiz questions?
I'll probably come up with some later, but not right off the. Here's what do you think the largest selling T-shirt in the history of T-shirts is?
Oof, history of selling T-shirts.
I'll give you a hint. I had a hand in designing it.
I mean, the I Love New York shirt rings a bell to me.
Okay, now that might be, but I would say that by a single company. Put it that way.
I mean,
and you probably bought it.
I'm sure I did. I mean, the Old Navy T-shirts.
The Old Navy flag tee.
The flag tee.
Yeah, the Old Navy year 2000 flag tee. We printed over 3.4 million of those shirts.
That's incredible. 1
out of every 100 Americans bought that shirt.
I mean,
we had to buy cotton futures to print that shirt.
That is
so we had to buy cotton in the fields to make sure we had enough cotton to print that many, to make that many T-shirts.
So how much of the product development process were you part of?
I oversaw graphic design for products. So the T-shirt, Old Navy's graphic T-shirt business was a $700 to $800 million a year business. And we also did all of the graphics were on any product. So it could be embroidery, it could be patchwork, it could be CAD textile design. So overall patterns.
Yeah.
And then also the graphics that are on the packaging. So we redesigned all Old Navy's packaging as well.
Which was trash before you. So it was a huge jump up
with a blue circle on it.
It was a huge jump up because I remember when you guys created the colorful bags that people walk around the mall with, you start having FOMO that you would see that someone went to go shop at Old Navy. You were so intelligent about every aspect of that user experience down to the merchandising, because I'm sure you had your hand in that.
I didn't have my hand in merchandising because I was in product development.
Got it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the merchandising guys utilized the things that you designed
on the
absolutely. Shirts to do everything that they did.
Yeah, point of purchase.
And it was incredible. And I would almost say that some of the big players like Macy's, they took cues from what Old Navy was doing in those years and really applied it.
Yeah.
You'd walk into a Macy's and you wouldn't see little mini stores the way that you see it now, but you would see that at Old Navy in those years. And it's incredible. So I have to ask, what is your favorite product that you've designed ever?
Wow, that's I think the favorite thing that I've created ever and is actually the graphic design trend videos that I do on YouTube now.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was actually one of the things that blew up my channel. Is one of those happened to get picked up by a big design blog called Design Taxi a number of years ago. And I got over 1.2 million views on it or something like that, which was mind-blowing to me at the time, this little YouTube channel. And then since then, they've become incredibly popular. They're always my most popular videos, get 250,000 views every year. And half of the people who know about me, who are in my mastermind community and stuff like that, found out about me through those videos. So it's all about, branding's all about visibility.
Yeah, 100%. Right? What does a Philip VanDusen business card look like?
A business card?
Yeah.
I don't have a business card anymore.
But if you had to make one, what would it look like?
If I had to make one.
I wish I had one of mine to show you.
I would love to see it. It's probably black.
I'm gonna text one of the guys.
It's probably like black metal. Like
I need someone to bring one of my cards down.
American Express gold card. I've seen some really amazing business cards that are these die cut metal business cards. Yeah. I think it's a business card. And when you get one of those business cards, they're really expensive. They're like $5 a piece. But but the idea is that when you get something like that, you can't throw it away, right? You just can't. We used to use this technique when I was in the agency business for doing new business pitches, where we would put together like a really cool little gift. Like I remember one that we did for, I think it was for P&G. I can't remember, but we basically made this really, really nice wood bespoke box that was lined with velvet and had like an embossed top to it. And we took Red Bull cans and we spray painted them silver. And then we put new graphics on the outside of them that said like innovation and design and some kind of keywords, right? And we put it in this box and we sent it to the head of marketing. And, with our little pitch for our agency. And the thing about things like that is that you can't throw them away because they're so cool that it's going to sit around on the desk of the credenza of the CMO for like 5-6 months, just constantly reminding them of you. And that's something I counsel creative professionals to do now. It's like, think about something that you can do that you can send to a prospect that's so cool that they're not going to throw it away. And it's just going to sit around and be visible and remind them of you. And you're eventually going to get business from it.
It's so interesting. So I think at my core, I'm an entrepreneur operator. There's a lot of mentors in my life that taught me how to do sales, that taught me how to do BD. But at one point in my career, I stole a copy of Photoshop, illegally downloaded it, and I just started messing around with flyers for nightlife and different things that I would design. I started studying color theory and typography very young. And I always found that I had like a superpower when it came to syntax, diction, putting things in a certain order, knowing the size of a phone number on a business card and how that affects whether or not someone's going to actually dial it and all those little types of decisions. But I'm so rarely in front of someone else that understands it just as well as I do, if not maybe more than I do. And I've had such a joy in my career, literally creating psychological decisions where I want people to do what I want them to do when they see a package. I had this interview with a chef recently, and he was telling me that chefs create more chefs. And it was this idea that when you teach a trade, you want to create more people that love that trade as much as you do. And earlier you just said that, teaching or being a creative director was much like teaching. I have helped dozens of designers become phenomenally good at what they do. And some of the lessons that I've always truly enjoyed teaching someone is like the eyes closed test, right? When you open your eyes and like, where is it that your eyes bounce around and whatever the design is. And it's always like a moment of pure joy when you see the light bulb go off in their head where they're like, wow, I did design this wrong. And what Ankur just told me just blew my mind. I need to make these changes. Is there like a favorite lesson of yours that you've gotten to teach people that
Oh,
are
yeah.
designing underneath you?
I mean, one of the things we used to do at Landor, which we had this thing called the 2010-2.
Okay.
And we did a lot of CPG, right? So we were, designing things for Tide and Gain and Febreze and, big P&G brands. And so when you think about having a bunch of products on a shelf in a grocery store, you are walking down an aisle and you're 20 feet away from it. And then you get closer and you may recognize, oh, that's the color block of, the Tide bottle that I'm looking for. And so 10 feet away, you kind of get the idea of it. And then when you're 2 feet away from it, you have to make that choice. It's what we call the first moment of truth in Landor, which is like, am I going to pick this thing up? And so becoming visible and being able to be visible from a distance and having that idea of brand recall. So in Tide's case, it's like orange, right? Or blue if it's Gain. And so you have that brand recognition, you're walking up to it, but then you have to get through that moment where they pick it up because there's this level of either brand loyalty or curiosity. And one of the really cool examples that I witnessed when I was in San Francisco and had just kind of entered the CPG world was when Method detergents came on the scene, and they created these, like, you remember them. They were like these clear bottles that were like, they looked like little jewels. They were like all these bright colors, and they were these cool shaped bottles. And they were in this aisle that was filled with like Tide and Gain bottles and all these big gallon jugs and things. And it was like you walked up and you were looking at like a perfume section of the laundry detergent aisle. And it just completely broke through that brand perception and the noise when, you had 40 feet of Tide and Gain, and then you get to this like 2 feet section where you have these like brightly colored bottles and you're like, oh, what are these? There's another story that I just really love that a brand that did this really well. No.
Okay.
No, I did not.
Okay.
I wish I did.
It's a great story.
I wish I
talk
did.
About it.
No, I knew some of the guys who did them. And, another great one is Kotex. So Kotex, the feminine, hygiene product, they came out with a new packaging line that was black. The boxes were black, and they had these, nice colored dots and shapes on them. But they were predominantly black. And if you go into the feminine hygiene aisle, it's not a black aisle, right? It's like all white, it's pastels, it's like flowers, it's like all, really nice. But talk about breaking through. So if you're walking down the feminine hygiene aisle and suddenly there's this big brand block of black, right? I mean, those guys were genius. Whoever did that, it was like, that's the sort of thing that I love about branding, is when you really understand how a consumer operates in a space, in this case, an actual retail space, and you can reverse engineer that process of what it goes through to see, recognize, be attracted to, be curious about something, and to be able to break through in a category that is absolutely dominated by some other brand. Like, how do you cut through that? That's the sort of thing that I absolutely love about branding.
So with what's going on in the world of social media, how much of how social media has shaped consumer decisions have you had your hands on in the past 30, 40 years?
I mean, all I've done is what I've done. I mean, I think that from an observer standpoint, I've been doing social media for my own brand for 10 years, and have been watching other brands and how they've been doing it for 10 years as well, seeing some of them, fail and flail. And I think the wonderful thing about social media is that it favors the individual contributor, because
100%. Yeah.
Big brands have, they're big faceless corporations. They don't have any personality to them. They don't have any kind of approachability to them. people inherently do not trust them. And so it's the little guy who has a face and who has a voice and who has a message that can be truly authentic and human, that people can really connect with and feel, that have the upper hand in social media. And that's what I love about social media. But it's been interesting kind of watching that develop over time.
No, for sure. So I had one of the guys bring down my business card. Would love to hear your opinions on this.
I love it. I could actually, I was putting together my trends video for the year.
Yeah.
And I could use this in my trends video.
Hey man, it's yours to keep.
No, it's really nice. There's this big blue spot, right? And one of the trends that is called the spot. And and it's very simple, it's very direct, it's very iconic, and it's easily scannable by a mobile phone, which is what it's all about.
And then there's a back.
And then there's a back, which is your agency.
For the traditionals.
Clean. Yeah.
And I feel so validated right now.
No, it looks good.
Awesome.
And you look like a badass in is that leather? Is that a leather jacket?
It's not.
Leather?
It's some home good $6 purple pleather jacket
it's
that
nice.
I wore in a photo shoot a long time ago. But I've photoshopped that jacket in so many colors at this point that no matter what my profile picture, I have something like this on it. It is, it's definitely interesting talking to another creative at your caliber. I guess let's flip the script. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. So you've been through a number of pivots, right?
I have.
And some of those pivots were painful.
They most certainly were.
Right? And I've had a couple very painful pivots too. What would you say the secret to making a successful pivot and a painful pivot is?
Oof. Okay. So, Will Smith has this thing that's been a meme for a little bit, right? Fail often, fail forward, learn from your failures. I can't remember what the third variation of it is. The failure happened for a reason, right? The need for a pivot, whether it was overconfidence, whether it was poor planning, whether it was a lack of resources, whatever it was. I think I have multiple MBAs of life at this point, knowing all the things not to do in certain scenarios. I'm not perfect today, but anytime that a pivot was required in my career or in my life, I had the self-awareness of the role that I played to get myself and the group of people that relied on me to that point. I also am delusional enough to think that I have the ability to create grandeur when I want to. And I think it's that belief that I can do it that has allowed me to do the amazing things I've done in my career. I mean, I've created a shirt that had logos on it that have seen in 120 plus countries, right? The logo of Shreds. I would walk into airports, just flying for a business meeting, and there would be people walking around wearing the shirt. And I know you know how this feels like, right? But for someone who's not designing apparel, this is a free t-shirt you gave to someone who ordered product, right? And not only would people be wearing the shirt they designed, they'd be wearing a limited edition run version of that shirt that you would have only received if you were in a different country at an expo where we were giving away that shirt. It was a truly incredible realization that, okay, I do have the power to create these amazing movements, and I do have the power to get around whatever the problem is that's in front of me. And, they say like the first million's the hardest. Once you're able to break that threshold, repeating it isn't necessarily that hard. I can tell you it's difficult no matter how you look at it, right? Getting to that first million to 5 million, it is the worst part about building agencies or building companies or anything that you want to build. And then once you break that threshold of that the 5 to 50 race is a very different set of problems. But the truth is, if you are in a moment of pivot or failure and you don't have that delusion of grandeur or ability to believe in yourself with pure confidence that you can turn this around, you got to surround yourself with mentors, people that have done it and can speak to you with experience that, like, listen, it's okay. You can just get back on the horse and try it again a different way. I mean, people have had to pivot so many times in life. I mean, Gary Vee talks about it all the time. I'm sure you're super familiar with his story, with the direction that he was taking in and then the turn that he made for the wine library and then now him being who he is in marketing. And the only other piece of advice I would have is like read every book that's out there, right? Watch the YouTube channels where people give you the answers. I mean, I'm sure you're influenced by guys like Seth Godin the way that I'm influenced by guys like Seth Godin or Simon Sinek or any one of these people that truly teach you the real answers to all of these problems. And hopefully that answers the question, right?
Yeah.
I'm delusional enough to think that I can get around this and create the grandeur and the opportunity. I mean, I was delusional enough to think that I could create a multi-room podcast studio that people would rent and book.
Yeah.
And since opening it for 2 months, we've been booked nonstop regularly. The team was so upset with me that I did 3 FlexWork Podcast episodes today. But every single person that came in, it was someone I admired truly and was shocked that would even respond to my LinkedIn message about wanting to meet and come on the podcast. But it's the last time I'm going to pivot. Never going to do it again. I have learned enough things to not repeat. And I turned 40 this year. I have things to lose this time. I wasn't married in any of my other pivots, and I didn't have other people that truly relied on me from every single day to day outside of my team. And I think things are just different this time.
So anyone listening, this is a badass podcasting studio. I absolutely love it. And so kudos for that.
Thanks, man.
So you're helping other podcasters, do shows and giving them, amazing facilities in order to make that happen. And you also do done-for-you services around social media.
100%.
So social media, as we know, has really, really changed over the last decade, probably, and even more so over the last 3 years, because of the content tsunami that has come, and AI has now put that on steroids.
Yeah.
And so how do you counsel content creators who are just kind of starting out about how to deal with that content tsunami that they are trying to poke their head above?
Oof. So
See, I'm a good interviewer, right? You can't tell I have a podcast too. I make it hard.
That is such a phenomenal question. So if it was like, how do you mentor brands and how to do it? Easy. The content creator side of it, the bottom line is that whether you're the popular kid in high school or whether you're the popular kid in a city or whether you're the popular person in a whole state, you have to start your community somewhere. And these are people that are diehard followers, loyalists, fans, so on and so forth. I mean, just even look at it as like you are a kid who has a lemonade stand. And there's like 3 or 4 of those like neighborhood moms or neighborhood dads that will just always buy lemonade from you. That's your audience that you started with. So many content creators, they fail to create an initial base and then find ways to service that base. And that's the thing that I always pinpoint. Like, find a way to service your base of people who actually care. And if you're a brand, focus on one tiny community and create that base, create an omnichannel presence, do whatever it is that you have to do to find that, like, just that core fan following group, and it will grow. The word of mouth will spread stuff. I tell this to brands all the time. Marketing hasn't changed much, especially in the CPG space. You have to have a product X that actually is good, that people would want to buy more than once. You got to have access to audience Y that wants that product. X plus Y equals $signs, right? I'm sure you can agree. Now, I take the X plus Y and I put in the parentheses and I raise it to the Z power. I call it Z marketing. Now, marketing can exponentially increase your $signs or it can exponentially destroy your $signs if you don't know what you're doing. But at the end of the day, you have to invest in X, Y, and Z. As a content creator, you are the X and your audience is the Y that you're building. And marketing is just the production of what you're creating. And I feel like if you're going to find your own voice, just know that there's an audience out there that cares for it. You have to go out there and find them.
Yeah. I think that the thing about content marketing for me that people don't understand is the need for fortitude and consistency. Because, in regular marketing, like I use the analogy of a band and a concert a lot, which is like, if you're a band, you sell tickets to your show and people pay you and then they come to your show and they listen to music, right? That's the old style. With content marketing, it's really different, which means that you're the band. You got to get up on a stage with an empty auditorium and play your best stuff for like 45 minutes before one person walks in. And then one person walks in, they listen, they're tapping their foot, and then they get on their phone and they call their friend, and maybe 3 or 4 other people come in. You keep playing. And then suddenly they post something on social, and then 100 people come in. And before you know it, eventually a crowd will gather, and then they pay you if you're lucky. And
that's a great analogy.
And it's like so many podcasts, as you know, the fact is that 80% of podcasts never get beyond 3 episodes. And it's because people can't handle the lack of a feedback loop, because you have to start playing to an empty auditorium for a long time. When I started my YouTube channel, I said, I'm going to post a video a week for a year before I look at my subs, before I do anything, before I make a decision about whether I'm stopping or whether I'm going to continue with this thing. And that's what I did. I basically made a commitment. It wasn't like a promise. I made a commitment to myself that I was going to do that. And I'm so glad that I did, because, 15, 20 videos in, I was like, I had like 100 subscribers, and it's really easy to get demoralized and think this is never going anywhere. No one cares. I'm out, And that sort of message, when you're counseling content creators, is one that's very difficult for them to hear, especially in a market that's as crowded as this is now.
So you just tell them to keep going?
I tell them to keep going, yeah. And now it's with AI, it's even more important that they differentiate themselves, that they really try to pay attention to what is their message, what's their voice, because the brand voice out there of AI and ChatGPT is genericizing almost 90% of the content. So how are you going to stand out? How are you going to stand out? How are you going to nurture and be different and be, what is your own brand voice? It's almost like, to a certain extent, we've got to be just a little bit more, I'm not going to say divisive, but opinionated. You have to stand for something now, because if you don't stand for anything, you stand for nothing, and you're fading into the wallpaper.
Speaking of AI, I had this bet with someone about a year ago that they were just like, no one's going to need graphic designers anymore. AI is going to come to a point where it just does it for everything. And I told them, hey, I promise you, within 2 years, we're going to start seeing this massive trend of design by human versus design by AI. And people will start paying for the human version of it, because it actually took thought, artistry, so on and so forth, rather than just data to create whatever it is that you're creating. And lo and behold, within 3 months, I started seeing websites saying created by human. Yep. And I haven't seen the trend pick up much, but I'm curious to see now with the deep fakes and the generative AI and everything that can happen, how quickly it'll be like, movie created by AI versus movie created by human.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's some aspects of human emotion that AI just doesn't have right at the current stance. And I don't know if it ever will, but I'm very curious to see where it goes.
Yeah. I mean, when AI first started doing design, my community, the design creative professional community, was freaking out. I mean, it was hair on fire time. Like,
was it really?
Chicken Little, still is. But the thing and this is where being a gray hair comes in handy. I mean, I was around before the Macintosh was around. And when desktop publishing became a thing, and it was Quark Express and Freehand and, all these other kind of apps that are no longer with us, the publishing industry was hair on fire, freaking out. They were like, oh, great. Now everyone and their brother can publish a document, can create a multi-page, pamphlet. It's like our whole industry is dead. And 5 years from then, there were probably 5 times as many graphic designers, and the creative industry had increased probably 5-fold.
Yeah.
And it's just done nothing but grow since. And what I try to counsel creative professionals, any kind of creative professional, about this is that AI is a tool, and your clients are not going to want to get in there and learn how to use it and suddenly be producing their own design work. They need someone else to learn it and can fold in their strategy and their brand voice and all that sort of stuff, and make sure that something's being produced that's going to be their combination of the X and Y factor, right?
Yeah.
And it's actually going to sell the product, because you're not going to be able to push a button and have the perfect thing pop out, And so it's up to the creative professionals to learn the new tool and to be the one who are on the vanguard and surf this wave, because we're the ones who's going to be doing it.
Agreed. So, Philip, what is the correct length of a podcast episode, in your opinion?
This is really funny because when I was, for a long period of time, I was doing interviews, and they were anywhere from 45 minutes to 55 minutes, right? But I got really overwhelmed, got a lot of clients. And so I started taking my YouTube videos, which are anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes long, and just repurposing the audio as podcast episodes. And I would just strip out the things that said like and subscribe, right?
Right.
And I, put a little promo ad in there, bumper in the front and the end. And so my podcast episodes went from being 55 minutes to being 12 minutes, 15 minutes. And my listenership actually went up about 3 times. And what I realized is that people love snackable things. They like quick.
You realize it's that late in life about the snacks?
No, I know, really. As I was saying that, I was like, he's going to catch that.
Yeah, of course.
No, but they do. And instead of listening to number one, when they start listening, they listen all the way through. So there's no drop off. Number 2, they'll listen to like 3 in a row. And then they will start to really kind of get the vibe of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And so they end up binging. And then that, of course, triggers algorithms. And then everyone goes, oh, wow, people are listening to 3 of these things in a row. Let's push it out even more. And so I actually am focusing almost entirely on shorter form episodes right now. So but I experiment. I go back and forth. When I come across someone as cool as you, though, I always go, oh man, I got to get him on my show. So I'll do a longer episode.
Hey, well, whenever you need me on your show, I would be
absolutely
happy to jump on. So in my limited statistics of podcast episodes, I found that 45 to 55 minutes is the perfect length for your hardcore fan base to actually go through your content and consume all of it. The average drop off, if I can keep them for 15 minutes, it's negligible after that point to get the algorithm to do what I want it to do. I'm just trying to drop a couple of nuggets for people at home who have these questions. But the short form content, meaning like really short form, like 15-second, 45-second, the vertical reels and everything that we do with it, I have not been able to figure out what the appropriate science is for interviews to get that stuff to really go viral. I've been finding that it goes viral when you say something crazy, right? Controversial and so on and so forth. But the sheer volume of that content waterfall from interviews is so expansive that I haven't put my finger on it yet. I haven't got the pulse on it. Have you had any experience with that?
Yeah, I went deep into short form for a while, and some of it was, recorded for short form, and other parts of it were, content repurposed or clips from other longer form content. And the thing I realized about short form is that it's a completely different consuming experience. When people are consuming short form, it is a thumb scroll, bonanza. It's
right.
Like if you don't catch them in 3 seconds, they're on to the next. And even if they do watch it, and even if you talk so fast that they have to watch it twice, very few people actually subscribe. Because number one, they make it very difficult to kind of subscribe from short form, and the next thing will start, and you'll be like, oh, how do I even get back to the thing? And even if they do subscribe, that sort of consuming of that sort of content, those soundbite sorts of pieces of content, I have found, in my experience anyway, do great things for brand recognition and visibility, but they don't do a lot for conversions because you're not imparting enough information for anyone to really establish a level of magnetism other than getting a vibe of your personality, which has its value. But when it comes down to conversions, I don't think that it does it.
Well, we're experimenting with short form produced content now. And we're trying to make 1-minute episodes that I think could work. We haven't launched them yet, but I don't know if the team told you, but this agency, AKG, merged with a bunch of other agencies. So now the super agency that we've created is called Youngry. Young in spirit, hungry in ambition. And we're going to create this whole 1 minute, 2 minute episode series that we're going to put out in vertical reels. And I can't wait to see what the audience thinks. But I'll let you know what comes out of it.
Well, and that the age group focus, if it is a younger demographic that you're looking for, I mean, that's the appropriate format for them too. Because you also have to pay attention, that's a key factor is who's consuming that sort of content,
But I still have this type of content for the people who want this. And so we're going to just keep pushing out content as much as we can. And I'm humbled that you like the studio. So
I do. It's absolutely awesome.
I really do truly appreciate that you came down. And I mean, I'd love to stay in touch and learn more about the different projects that you're working on. And yeah, if people at home want to follow what you're doing, what are the appropriate handles?
Sure. If you go to philipvandusen.com, it's my website. It's where you can access anything I do there. But my other primary kind of vehicle is YouTube. So I'm under my own name, Philip VanDusen on YouTube. And I do videos about branding and design and strategy and creative professional careers.
Has another Philip VanDusen ever reached out to you?
There are others, but not many. And I got to tell you, I feel sorry for the ones who are, because if you Google my name, I'm like the first 8 pages on Google.
So I think I'm like 12, and I'm finally old enough to buy a domain. And I go to try to buy unpack.com, and some other guy has it. He bought it like 2 months before me. And so I have been emailing this guy for years. Like, please give me the domain. You're doing nothing with it. It's just a parked page. I think I'm like in college, and I finally get this guy to like give me a price. And I offer him 10 grand. He's like, no, 100 grand. I'm like, done. Let's do it. He comes back. He's like, I can't do it. I can't give it to you. No price is worth it. And he forwards the domain to his LinkedIn. And I'm like, what a loser. This guy just is putting it to LinkedIn, whatever. And so I brand myself as Ankur Garg, like the Michael B. Jordan of the whole thing. This jerk goes and becomes a famous Bollywood movie producer. And I don't mean like of a couple of movies. I mean like whole like genre movies, changing the game of like how certain things are filmed for the Gen Z audience. And you search this guy's name, it's impossible for me to beat him. We're talking about over 1 billion people know his name over there. But it's okay. Michael B. Jordan is still very famous, right? And he has to compete with Michael Jordan, but it's okay, right? People know his name, and it's synonymous with, or infamous enough in his own space. So that's what I'm doing with my name.
And Younger is going to get you over that whole Bollywood thing.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to being on your show when that happens. And guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.